Hello, college football fans, and welcome into the college football closing time. It's a brand new show we're going to have starting here. It'll be on Saturday nights. Just a quiet, little relaxed breakdown of the day of college football, what's happened, what's coming up next. I've got two guys in the house with me tonight. I've got Ashton and Blake in the house with me. Ashton, Blake, we're going to start off with, obviously the conversation piece of the day, and that is 20-point underdog Colorado comes into TCU Fort Worth and decimates. Well, let me back up. Not say decimates. Wins the football game, very close game, but I was very impressed with how this team played. Ashton, I'll start with you, man. What was your thoughts on the Buffaloes today?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I chose a college pick 'em. I actually picked TCU to win this game. Now, I will admit that I didn't expect TCU to win by just too much. Uh, I'm stunned that Sanders was able to have so much success for against a team that was in the national championship game just a year ago. And we're talking about a team in TCU that not only they brought in some guys that could just go. They brought in JoJo Early from Alabama. They brought in Warren Thompson, who is a former Arkansas Razorback, and that was kind of a shock to me and Blake whenever he decided to up and just transfer, and we thought he was done playing football. So he's there as well. There's a few other guys that were transferred in. There's a former recruit that Arkansas tried to get named by the name of Savion Williams, playing receiver for TCU. So I mean, they've got talent, lots of talent. But you know one thing they do have that Arkansas doesn't have, that's Chandler Morris. And the last name Morris is just not a good name to have in Fayetteville.
It's
But
not, man, and
overall, but
I made
overall,
it. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, no, no, no. I was just gonna say real quick that I made a statement earlier during the game that Chandler Morris is not the answer there. There's just there's I mean, yes, he made a nice little comeback. I get all that, but there's something about that kid that I just do not trust as a D1 quarterback. Go ahead, Ashton.
I I believe you're right. Chandler Morris is not the answer at quarterback for TCU. He's a dual threat guy, but he's not going to win the game for you when it's on the line. Sanders, on the other hand, he's the real deal. He is the absolute real deal. And Dion told us all. Dion was right, and I fully expect them at this pace. I'm not expecting them to go undefeated, but I really do. I expect Colorado to win 9 to 10 games. I wouldn't be shocked if they did.
Wow, Blake, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are, Dion brought in, he hit the transfer portal hard. Okay. So brought in all those guys and, he proved that, Colorado's for real. And he, you know, they were what, a 24-point underdog,
Hmm.
I think. Yeah. So, I mean, he had the boys ready to play. I just think TCU might be a little overrated. And I don't think we need to. It's just 1 week, you know. So I'm gonna wait and see on my real thoughts on Colorado because you know maybe TCU is just a tad bit overrated.
Could very well be. I mean, Ashton, you mentioned it. You look at Shador Sanders, 28 of 47, 510 yards, four touchdowns. That's 81% for you mathematicians out there. But that's a 200.1 quarterback rating for the day. But excuse me, one thing that I really was impressed with is the ball got out of his hands very fast today. There wasn't a lot of time for him to really make a mistake per se. Um, it was fast. It was there. I mean, at times in this game, they went faster than Lane Kiffin does, and that's saying something. They kicked it into a hyperdrive mode, and what they did was they just wouldn't substitute, and then they would catch TCU running off the field. But when you look at this team, I mean, let's just talk about it real quick, guys. Obviously, there's one name that everybody is talking about around the country, and that is one Mr. Travis Hunter.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's talk about this young man. 11 catches on the day, 119 yards, long of 42. That's an average of 10.8 It was 16 carries today, so 5 drops for him, 69% catch percentage. But then he has the interception on the other side of the ball at cornerback. But when you look at this young man, of course, we all know the history. We all know what happened, how Deion got him, all that. But this young man is special. We were talking about it right before the show got started. This is the first dual-sided player that I can think of since probably Charles Woodson. I mean, I'm sure there may have been a more recent one, but not one to this level that I know of. And speaking of Travis Hunter, he's the first player in over 20 years to have over 100-plus yards receiving and an interception in the same game. Blake, what's your thoughts on Travis Hunter?
I think he's going to get a lot of talk for the Heisman, and I think it's justified because there's not another player in the nation going both ways like he does. He just doesn't play one or two plays on defense or one or two plays on offense. He's on the field all the time. And there's not another player in the nation doing that and he's very successful on both sides of the ball. So he's going to be in the Heisman talk, and it's very, very justified.
So I agree. Ashton, what's your thoughts?
So we're looking at a guy, whenever he was coming out of high school, he told everybody when it came down to decision time that he was going to go to Jackson State. And everybody, including myself, I said, what are you doing? Why Jackson State? And he said, I'm going to play for Deion Sanders. And he's done nothing but impress from the moment that he stepped foot on a college university campus. He's unreal. And, we're looking at a guy that when the game is on the line, that one play where 99.9% of the time Chandler Morris tried to throw that out to the corner of the pylon, towards the corner of the pylon, and Travis just lays out and intercepts it. That's a play that most people don't make. That's normally a touchdown. For him to make that play was so impressive. But there's another guy that I think, as far as the success of Colorado went today, that is not probably getting as much attention because he's not very big. And his name is Dylan Edwards. This cat, we're talking, as a true freshman, had 4 touchdowns today. As a running back, he had a rushing touchdown, and he had 3 receiving touchdowns as a running back at 5'9", 5'9", including that final touchdown to put Colorado ahead.
Yeah.
They're talented on both sides of the ball, from freshman to senior. They've got it all, and that's why I say I think they'll win 9 to 10 games, and it's going to run through Sanders, and it's going to run through Travis Hunter. As they go, the team goes.
I agree.
I'm looking forward to USC versus Colorado. That's going to be.
And let's say this: there is a good football pedigree background on this team. Sanders' son has a good football background. Jimmy Horn Jr. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jimmy Horn Jr. is his father.
Oh, he was the wide receiver that played for the Saints.
Joe Horn. Was it Joe Horn?
Mm-hmm. He's the one that got the phone out.
They can play,
from
man.
Under the
That's right, under the pylon.
Yep, under the pylon.
Or not the pylon, but the goalpost there.
The little pad, yeah.
Yes. Oh, so they know football. These kids grew up around football, and they know how to be successful playing it.
And I will add, a lot of his transfers some of them came from HBCU, and it just shows the talent that's actually in the HBCUs for Sanders to come to the big-time D1 level and put up those numbers.
No doubt. And there was an interview with Erin Andrews in the pregame, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but she made a comment to him about, hey, you had 57 players leave. And he's like, whoa, let me stop you real quick. Let me do some clarification for you. Out of those 57, we had sit-down conversations with about 20. The rest of them quit. So when you look at it from that perspective, from a coach's perspective, and that many people quit, quote unquote, quit the team. But what are your thoughts on Prime? Not Deion, but Prime. Because we know there's a difference. Today on the sidelines, I think that was a mixture of both, to be honest with you. But Blake, I'll start with you, man. What's your thoughts on Deion Sanders as a football coach?
Well, I like him in the post game conference. He was calling reporters out. They, as he says, they keep all the receipts of everything everybody says. So he wouldn't take questions from certain reporters because he didn't like what they wrote about him and his team. But Prom's gonna be Prom. He's gonna bring the flashy and all that. What he's wearing on the sideline. There's not another coach wearing. Those $1,000 probably sunglasses. And he's just being Prime time. So.
Ashton, what about you?
I think what kids want to play. I don't know how to. Kids want to play for a guy like Dion because of, first off, his knowledge of the game. I think Dion brings a different kind of understanding to the game of football. Yes, he knows football, but I think he also knows people. I think he knows how to talk to kids. I think he knows how to talk to parents. I think he knows how to talk to the media. And not only does he know how to do it, he backs it up. I mean, if you're going to talk a big game, you've got to be able to produce. And he produces. He produced whenever he was a professional football player, and he talked a lot.
Yeah,
nothing's changed. It's just his personality. Now, it's not everybody's cup of tea by any means, but what you will find out is he dresses differently. He may talk a little differently. He may coach a little differently, but the proof's in the pudding, and he's been pretty successful.
Oh, I agree 100%.
And I like, and I don't know if you ever watch his press conferences. I just do just to see what he's saying, but he doesn't have the coach speak. The coaches say, "Oh, we went out, tried our best," or we're not playing well. He'll call people out. He'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, I agree. He will. Up next, let's jump over to a more regional game that took place today in Little Rock, Arkansas. And that was the Arkansas Razorbacks as they kicked off their 2023 season against the Western Carolina Catamounts. The Hogs came away with a convincing win today. Blake, I know you were there. So let me just start with this. We talked about it last week on the show on the Hogs Happy Hour. We mentioned why Little Rock. Well, after today's experience, do you have any different feelings or different thoughts about the game being played there at War Memorial?
Yeah, I will say, the fans showed up to an extent. It wasn't sold out. The end zones were, you could see empty rows, but, they play a game there every other year, so you think they would be more prepared than what they were. They ran out of water and Gatorade in the third quarter. Everybody knew it was going to be hot. That's why they moved the game up from 3 to noon. And it was they had problems. I didn't have this problem, but some people had problems scanning the tickets.
Really?
The line we went through, it was fine, but I've heard stories of people waiting 30, 40 minutes just to scan their ticket. The concession stands were always backed up. The card readers didn't work there. The concourse was all packed because everyone's trying to find some shade, and so everyone went to the concourse, but that's where the concessions are. So it was just it was not pleasant, I will say. It was great to see the Hogs win, but the experience it could have been much better in Fayetteville.
Well, when you look at this game from a team perspective, Arkansas had a total of 379 yards, 105 on the ground, 274 through the air. 20 of 25 passing as a team, 80%, 13.7 yards per completion. And what I really enjoy is the yak, and that's 133 yards for Arkansas. On the day, 4 passing touchdowns, a total of 61 plays, an average of 6.2 yards per play, and I feel like pretty well balanced, 36 runs to 25 passing. Considering the score of this game, Ashton, I feel like that's honestly a really balanced offense for the day.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. We go back to when we did our prediction. I think I said it was going to be somewhere in the realm of 52-10, something like that. Maybe been 55-10, but it ended up being 56-13. Of course, they had to get that 3-point field goal there at the very end.
Yeah,
Props to them, though.
Bobby
He
Bobby
still he
Bowden
coached
said you can't take timeouts to heaven, so you got to
That's
call them
right.
during
That's
games.
right. He coached to the very end. I would expect our coach to do the same thing. Um, but what I took away from it, the game, number one, I think KJ is as good as we thought he would be. He started the game 12-12, and then I think the Razorbacks kind of took the foot off the gas. They just I think they kind of went into cruise mode, and it kind of carried over into cruise mode in the third quarter. I think we scored one touchdown in the third quarter, a little bit of cruise mode in the fourth quarter. We were all wrong when we thought that the starters would be out by the third quarter.
Yeah.
So we all guessed wrong on that. But one thing I was very concerned about, and maybe I shouldn't be, was you had arguably one of the top three running backs in all of the SEC run 15 times for 42 yards.
Yeah.
And between him and Judkins from Ole Miss, the two guys had 102 rushing yards today. Now their team both won big, but it's still, even with a team like Western Carolina selling out for the run, you'd still expect Arkansas to be able to get some push up front, and it just wasn't there. So I'm hoping that gets addressed, because if we go play someone like Texas A&M, we go play someone like LSU, they're gonna push a lot harder than Western Carolina push. Maybe it was just who we were playing; we weren't hyped up enough. But overall, defense looked good. Much it looked improved in the secondary for sure. Defensive line, I thought we would have more push, get more sacks. It wasn't quite there, but defensively we looked good. Offensively, we looked good everywhere except one place, and that was running the football.
Yeah, as a team, you ran 36 yards for 105, or 36 times. I'm sorry, for 105 yards, 3 touchdowns, a long of 17, which that really surprised me against a team like Western Carolina. But what really shocked me the most is you only averaged 2.9 yards a rush. I mean, let's give a little bit of credit where credit's due. Western Carolina was set in stone to stop the running game of Arkansas today, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like they did. I mean, you hold Arkansas to 36 rushes for 100 yards. That's a win in my book. They didn't win in the scoreboard and in the final score, but I mean, when you look at it from a defensive perspective, that's a win. You accomplished your goal if you're Western Carolina. Real quick, you just talked about KJ. KJ is definitely 18 to 23, 246, 3 touchdowns, 78% to 11 passer rating. Then you have Jacoby Criswell come in 2 for 2, 28 yards, tutty, and was 382 for a passer rating. But hey, it's kind of a late night show. I guess it's all right. But when you look at this, all right, so let's talk quarterback real quick for the Arkansas Razorbacks. I think you're going to see this happen again, a few more games in the season, possibly even next week up here in Fayetteville against Kent State. Do you expect to see Criswell get a little more touches? And secondly, were you surprised to see KJ in the game as long as he was? Blake, I'll start with you.
I was, but at the time, the first team offense was not playing well, so I figured Pittman wanted to see more out of them before he pulled them. Next week we should see Criswell more because Kent State again is a lower level team, so we should have a good lead on them. But I went to the game with my brother and my wife, and I told my brother when Criswell was out there, I said, if Criswell was wearing number 1, you would think that's KJ out there. There's not a difference between the two. So, if injuries do happen, but if they do, I'll feel comfortable with putting Criswell out there because I think he's kind of maybe a carbon copy of KJ.
Ashton, let me ask you this: we talked about the return of Dan Enos. I mean, I know it's a very small sample size against Western Carolina, but when you look at this offense today, what's your thoughts on how it ran, the fluidity of it?
I think overall, I think it was a very vanilla game for us. But one thing I was encouraged to see was any situation we were perhaps third and long, we didn't just throw in the towel, hand the ball off, run it, then punt. We were looking to get a first down and keep the drive alive. And you saw several times, second and long, third and long, KJ got the job done. I put the ball in KJ's hands, and I felt like last year Kendall Briles would take the ball out of KJ's hands and just run the football. Put the ball in the hands of your best player, and that's KJ. Let's see what he can do with the ball. If he tucks and runs, I feel better about him tucking and running or rolling out of the pocket than I do just turning and handing it to the running back.
Yeah.
So he made things happen today, and in my opinion with KJ, if we threw the ball 70 times today, I really feel the way KJ was throwing the football that we would have completed 60 of those passes, and we could have scored 70 points. But as it was, when you play games like this, you pay them big money to come in and play us. You've got to work on things. Yeah. Whether you like it or not, you've got to work on things. Sure, you can go hang 70 on a team and throw 60, 70 passes, or you can work your offense. Overall, I think Enos did a fantastic job. Yeah, and the offense looked very fluid. No issues.
I will add, I liked how KJ stayed in the pocket and looked at his second, third read before he even tried to tuck it and run. Last year, now it may just been the offense last year. It may just been a one read. If it's not there, tuck it and go type situation. But I also liked on that first touchdown, Teslaw threw that block. You want
beautiful block.
If that doesn't happen, that's a 10-yard, 15-yard gain.
Yeah.
But instead, it's a long touchdown.
Brings it for 65, 69, whatever it was. And then that young man right there led the day for the Hogs receiving, and he had one with 60-something yards.
And also spread out, 60, 40, 40. I think it's how it broke down. No, there's no receiver that had, a large amount of yards. It was all spread out. And
it was a lot more. I feel like that with the Enos offense, you're gonna be able to see who is talented on that team because they're gonna touch the ball. Mm-hmm. He's gonna get the ball in everybody's hands that he knows is talented. One guy that I was really impressed with was Luke Hasz today. First freshman tight end. Yeah, we talked about it last week. Yeah, first play, make a big play, first play, run a quick little in. Nice catch, physical catch. That guy, man, he's going to be special to watch for this Arkansas football team. Let's jump over real quick. The Memphis Tigers got a big win tonight. My computer's being slow, guys. I'm sorry. Memphis Tigers got a big win tonight, 56-14 over Bethune-Cookman. Tigers now have won 10 consecutive home openers. Last home opener loss was 2013 to Duke. So Memphis got a big win tonight. I'm not sure if you guys watched it all the way or not, but let's just talk a little bit about this game. 551 total yards for Memphis compared to 91 for Bethune-Cookman. So Memphis defense really came in strong tonight. 208 yards rushing, 43 rushing attempts on the night, 4.8 yards per rush, 5 rushing touchdowns. One running back, Mr. Blake Watson, was 1 rushing touchdown away from tying D'Angelo Williams, Patrick Taylor, and the list of others, 4 running backs that have 4 rushing touchdowns in a game. Memphis did set a record for 5 rushing touchdowns in a game tonight. But when you look at this team, of course, Seth Hennigan, 2 interceptions tonight, so a little bit unlike Seth from a taking care of the ball perspective. But Memphis with a big win, 56-14. Blake, when you look at this Memphis team, you go on the road next week to Arkansas State. We saw Arkansas State get absolutely brutalized by Oklahoma. We saw Butch Jones literally what we think was crying on the sidelines. Um, I expect Memphis to get a big win next week. Now, one thing I will say is the attendance tonight was not beautiful. Only 26,632 people in the stands for the opener.
Yeah. I will say I think Memphis should have no problem next week. Arkansas State is not even average, I would say. They're pretty below average right now with Bush Jones. So hopefully, it's an in-state school. I mean, so hopefully they can turn it around. But I don't think it's going to be next week against Memphis. And Memphis fans, be happy. Happy. You're 1-0. Huh?
Yeah.
There's half the teams are 0-1 right now. Florida's 0-1. Be happy.
Yeah, I concur 110%, Blake. I mean, Memphis was up like 40 something to 7 during this game, and then people I know online, keyboard warriors, oh, this team sucks. If Mike Norvell was the coach, we'd be up by 50. Well, guess what? Here's a quick factoid for you. He ain't in Memphis no more. He's down in Tallahassee, and they play tomorrow. So, just my personal opinion, if you're such a fan of Mike Norvell, watch the game tomorrow night and stop watching Memphis and stop complaining. It's just my personal opinion on the matter. Ashton, what about you, man?
Man, so I think Hennigan, you're talking about a guy who you go back a few years, and then by the end of this year, he will probably, if he has any success as he has the last 2 years, he's going to be a guy who finishes or has a career of 9,000 to 10,000 passing yards. This guy can throw the ball. We're talking about a dude who's had 20-plus touchdowns every year, less than 10 interceptions every year. And you're right, for him to throw 2 interceptions tonight is unlike him. But if his average is any indication of what he'll be like, don't worry, he'll only throw 6 more for the rest of the season.
Right.
He also has some good targets to throw to. Blakency, I believe that's how you say his last name. Blakency coming in from Toledo. I remember watching him play.
It's Bluncumsey, and I heard Doc Holliday mention his name a few times tonight. I've been saying it wrong the entire time, and if the player ever listens to the show, I apologize. But yeah, it's Bluncumsey.
Bluncumsey. Okay, so he's a good talent to have transfer in from Toledo, and then you got Tosky Dove transferred in. We just talked about him a little while ago before we got on air, coming in from Missouri. So you got some dudes who have come in from some good programs. Toledo's been known to have success at their programs. These are well-coached players coming in. Missouri has actually experienced some success here recently. So those guys coming in help Memphis. And Hennigan has some good targets to throw to. And not to mention, you're welcome for Simeon Blair coming over to Memphis. We miss him.
Yeah.
We miss him in Fayetteville. I mean, I'm not saying Simeon Blair was the best player, but he was a good teammate to have, good guy to have on the field, because you knew what you were going to get out of him every single game. So the guy goes wall to wall, sideline to sideline, hard the whole time throughout the game. He just works hard. So overall, this Memphis team is going to be okay this year. They went 7-6 last year, and they beat a good team in a bowl game, and I think you're going to probably experience more than 6 wins this year.
Oh,
so
I agree 100%.
Memphis fans, relax.
Yeah. I mean, probably the average Memphis fan doesn't get told to relax too many times in our lifetime, just honestly about it. Also, another guy, Reed Blair, young man that we had on the Tigers Den just recently, had 2 punts tonight for 81 yards, an average of 40.5 yards a punt, long of 45, and one of those was inside the 20. But yeah, when you look at these guys, Simeon Blair had 1 total tackle tonight, but the defense played well. The offense, led by Rock Taylor, a young man. He was number 2 tonight. Bluncumsey was the number 1 receiver for the Tigers. And speaking of him, Ashton, that little guy's shifty, man. For some reason, I was thinking he had a little more height on him, I guess, than he does. But he is quick. He's shifty. He can change direction in the blink of an eye. And then on the running side of things, Memphis had 5 rushing touchdowns tonight. But one of their running backs didn't even play, and that's Javon Ducker. And we are working to get a little more information into why he was out tonight. Also, Joseph Skates was out injured. But when you look at Memphis, like I said, big win tonight. 56-14 over Bethune-Cookman. The Tigers clawed through them pretty easily tonight, and now they hit the road. Go to Jonesboro next week to take on a battered Arkansas State football team for sure. Real quick, guys, and this wasn't on the topic list for the night. Hang on one second. Let me knock this banner off here real quick. But let's see. Real quick, what were your surprises of the day? I mean, were you expecting Oklahoma to beat Arkansas State by 73? I mean, I saw Oregon put 81 on a team earlier today. The Lane train was popping his popcorn down there and put 73 on Mercer today. Just in the realm of things, what was your surprise, or what are your surprises for week one? Ashton, I'll start with you.
Surprise number one for me is honestly, most people would say Colorado TCU. That's really not surprise number one. I think you already said it. I was not expecting a Butch Jones team, a Butch Jones coach team to go into any stadium, anywhere. I would maybe expect 40 or 50 to nothing, 73 to nothing. I was not expecting that. But they showed some stats today about Brent Venables. His first year at Clemson, the defense was terrible at Clemson. They were awful. And his first year at Oklahoma, the defense was terrible. But every year following his first year coaching, the defense got better and better and better. And I think if Oklahoma fans, and by the way, some of my family's from Eastern Oklahoma, big Oklahoma Sooners fans, if they just give Venables time, I think he will turn Oklahoma around back to where they were during the Bob Stoops era. Now, it's going to take a little while. It's going to take a little while, though. You're coming over to the SEC, and I think right now, as it stands, Oklahoma is the best team in the Big 12. That's my opinion. After watching Texas play, after I don't know if Baylor ended up winning or losing, TCU doesn't look that great. I think Oklahoma is the most polished team after week one.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Really, that's my only surprise. Everybody else kind of took care of business. Oh, I guess I could mention that Iowa beating Utah State 24-14. Don't forget that Iowa's quarterback is Cade McNamara, who, by the way, was the transfer quarterback from Michigan who played for Jim Harbaugh. So Iowa, after watching Ohio State play today, Iowa could be a threat in the Big Ten.
Agree completely. And there's something about that Indiana football team, man. They're just gritty. They just seem to, like, you punch them a little bit, they're like, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna keep punching you back too. There's something about that Indiana team. But you're right. The fact that Butch Jones led Arkansas State Red Wolves team walked into Oklahoma today and just got drummed 73-0. That's very surprising. And I mean, obviously, like we talked about just a minute ago, Memphis heads that way next week. Blake, what about you, man? What was your big surprise?
Mine's going on right now with the UNC South Carolina game, because South Carolina's getting beat 31-17.
Yep. And the big surprise with that, Blake, is North Carolina's two best receivers aren't even playing tonight.
Now
go ahead.
Here's what's surprising. Spencer Rattler has 328 yards passing. Like they have the stats, they just don't have the points.
Right.
And May has thrown 2 picks. I mean, so UNC's turned it over, but South Carolina's offense, Dow Loggins, what's going on?
Well, we're going to close out the show with what I expect to be an incredible matchup tomorrow night from Orlando, Florida, and that is LSU and Florida State. I know I made a comment earlier about Mike Norvell. I mean, full disclosure, I like the guy. I think he's a really good football coach. Product of Central Arkansas, by the way. A lot of folks forget he used to have cornrows and played wide receiver for UCA. But, Mike Norvell, incredible football coach. Take nothing from the man. And I honestly think tomorrow night, first time these two teams will ever meet, top 10 matchup. Last year, we saw a battle between these two teams. Florida State ended up blocking a field goal at the end to win. Ashton, I'll start with you, man. Brian Kelly, year one, honestly, just shocked that he came in and did what he did with LSU. Not that there wasn't talent already there. It's not what I'm saying. But Mike Norvell is doing something very, very special at Florida State. He is rebuilding Tallahassee, Florida. No pun intended. Not trying to steal anything from Butch Jones, but brick by brick, and he's doing it fast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is it about? What is it about this Florida State team that's just a threat this year?
Well, number one, there's a reason why everybody in the country, when Mike Norvell was available to be a head coach, wanted Mike Norvell. There's a reason why the Arkansas Razorbacks wanted Mike Norvell to be the head coach in Fayetteville. Norvell knows how to run an offense. He knows how to run a program. He knows how to recruit kids. And it's how dangerous is it for Mike Norvell to be right in the middle of Florida, recruiting some of the best talent in the United States. In such a short amount of time, people were starting to give up on the Florida State program. And in steps Mike Norvell, and he went through some road bumps and some speed bumps along the way. But now look at him. He's got his team going into LSU top 10 matchup, and he could roll into LSU. Where is the game actually at? Is it at LSU?
Orlando. It's down in Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not so certain that Florida State, Jordan Travis, rolls out with a win.
Yeah.
No, Jaden Daniels is good, but Mike Norvell with Jordan Travis, that's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at what he did at Memphis. I mean, that's the best winning percentage of recent active coaches, and of course made the jump to Tallahassee, Florida, and has done amazing things. And now, what will be his fourth year down in Tallahassee. Blake, when you look at this matchup from a LSU perspective, and I know that's probably going to be odd for you being an Arkansas fan, but from an LSU perspective, you talked about Jaden Daniels, but that defense down in Baton Rouge, Brian Kelly's got a really good defense.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, with any top SEC team is going to have a dominant defense, and I don't think Florida State is ready for that. I really don't. I have them losing by 10. I have LSU winning by 10. Florida State, I just don't. You give Brian Kelly all year to prepare. I don't see this being much of a competitive matchup. I know it's probably surprising to some, but that defense they're just fast. They will run around. They're not, no knock on the ACC, but it's not the SEC. I'm just not impressed with Florida State. I'm just not.
Really? So you honestly, so you think LSU is just gonna? I mean, a 10-point win. I mean, that's you can make a field goal at the end and make it 10. But so you think close game, but you think LSU pulls it out?
Yeah, I think it's dominant. You can at the line of scrimmage, you can see LSU's pushing them. They're winning at the point of attack. So I just don't see it being very competitive as to what people think.
I think the biggest issue is I look at LSU's roster, their lineup from last year, and I look at Florida State, and I think LSU wins the game. I don't know by how much, but I think LSU wins the game. Florida State's going to put up a good fight because they're talented, but Florida State doesn't have Harold Perkins. Florida State doesn't have B.J. Ojulari. Florida State doesn't have Joe Fouché. They don't have Greg Brooks. They don't have Savion Jones at defensive end. They don't have Mekhi Wingo at defensive. I mean, this team is loaded on defense. And then they don't have Malik Neighbors. They don't have Jaden Daniels. LSU, of course, I'm an Arkansas fan, and I hate to say it, hate to admit it being an Arkansas fan. LSU has probably one of the more talented teams. Of course, not more talented than Joe Burrow and his crew, but this team is loaded.
They are. They're loaded. And tomorrow night's going to be an absolute dogfight. I've got Florida State winning the game by 2 scores. I know that sounds crazy, but I've got them 2 scores. They create some turnovers, score points off of it, get the win. But it's going to be a fight. It's going to be an
I
absolute fight.
was curious, what big game has Norvell won like at his time at Florida State?
I mean, they won a bowl game last year.
Yeah.
That's probably it. But honestly, didn't they beat Clemson? Did they beat Clemson, or did they not? No, they lost to Clemson last year.
They played what? Who they played in the bowl?
Oklahoma. In the
Oklahoma.
Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, they beat Oklahoma. I mean, when you look at Norvell from a bowl perspective, he's not. I mean, from a coaching history, he hasn't been very successful. He didn't win any bowl games at Memphis.
I mean,
that was his first bowl win, I believe, since he's been at Florida State too. I could be wrong on that.
I'll just go down a list of who's the better head coach.
Oh, Norvell or Kelly? I think Kelly is.
Okay, which team has the better quarterback?
I think Jordan Travis is better than Teddy.
Okay.
I think Florida State myself. Only reason
Jordan
I say
Travis is
that,
nasty.
the only reason I say that is I'm looking at Jaden Daniels. He's been sacked 43 times while he's been there at LSU, or not at LSU, but I guess in his career, 43 sacks, and he's only passed for 2,900 yards. He's under 70% completion rate. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it happening. Now, the only good thing he's got going for him, he's got Butte and Neighbors to throw to. Oh, and he's got a little fella named Mason Taylor, who, by the way, is the son of Jason Taylor.
Yep.
Those are some good guys to throw to. It's just whether or not he can make accurate passes, because I think Arkansas made him look bad last year.
I agree. Yeah, I think Jordan Travis. Personally, I think he's the better quarterback. I think there's more. I guess you would say weapons on the LSU side of things. You would check that box as far as if we're checking boxes. But I think quarterback just as a whole, I think Jordan Travis is more accurate. I think he's more of a. I think he's just more of a threat of the position. I mean, he's dual threat. He can run. I mean, he's got accurate. I mean, everything. But I mean, you go back to coaching. I mean, Brian Kelly is the winningest head coach in Notre Dame's history for a reason, because he's a damn good football coach. I mean, just point blank, period. I think tomorrow night's going to be a fight. It's going to be fun to watch. I believe it's on ABC. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. So if we're keeping score here, so Blake, you've got LSU. Ashton, you've got LSU, and then I've got Florida State for the win tomorrow.
We'll see.
I'm going to have LSU 35-28.
It's the most exciting game of the week. So, yeah.
I agree. I would say it's probably the most exciting game of the week, for sure. Real quick, before we jump over, or before we close out tonight, jumping back over to Arkansas real quick before we close. When you look at Kent State next week, the Golden Flashes come to Fayetteville for what I think is the first time ever. But I mean, is it similar to today's game, or do you think it's a little bit more competitive with Kent State? Blake, go ahead.
Usually, teams make the biggest jump from the first week to the second week. So, but Kent State got beat 56-3 to UCF, I think, maybe, or one of them Florida schools. One of them Florida schools that's better than the Gators. All right, Florida might be the sixth best team in Florida. A question you should post is, will Florida upset Vandy this year?
Wow, I hadn't even thought about it, from that perspective, because Vandy did beat them last year. I didn't even think about that.
But anyways, I think it's going to be very similar game plan. It's going to be very simple on offense and defense, and if they have to dig deep in the playbook, they will. So I think it's going to be very similar. It's their home opener, so I'm sure they're excited to play in Fayetteville. The students will be ramped up, so it's going to be another hot one. But yeah, I expect the same results.
Ashton?
I think we're going to end up with in my guess, I'm just coming up with a number. I would assume around 45-17 type of game. I wouldn't doubt if Kent State came out and was a lot better than what they put on for this last week, or for the. I just don't see them coming out and laying an egg the way they did against, I believe it was UCF. 45-17. I think we'll run the ball better. I think Sam will get in there and get after him, and Coach Kennedy, I think it's his last, Cody Kennedy, will get after him as well, and we'll run the ball better. Maybe might have a different scheme. Who knows? Week to week, we just don't really know yet. Enos has been away from Fayetteville so long, we don't fully know, I guess, what he's capable of as far as an OC goes. But we do know that he has had success as an OC, and I think some of his best success has come in Fayetteville. So overall, 100%. We'll be 2-0 after next week.
Yeah, I will say about the run game, there's a lot of injuries on that offensive line. We're still trying to find the right five. So I'm not worried about it. Other fans might be worried about it, but I'm not.
Something else that we definitely, we don't need to talk about long, but does need to be addressed concern wise. We've got to stop having so many penalties in a game. There's no reason why Chris Paul should get ejected from a game for an ignorant penalty. Those things just, if you want to be good, you want to be great as a football team, you got to stop giving even terrible teams. You got to stop giving terrible teams an opportunity to stay on the field.
Yeah. And I will add real quick that we don't have any procedure penalties, which is good. No false starts, delay game. So
none the whole game. Interesting.
Arkansas team, that's usually, we usually have a bunch of those.
Yeah, and speaking of the Paul thing, I mean, when you look at Chris Paul, I mean, he seems to be a guy that makes smart, heady decisions on a general week-to-week basis. So, I mean, real quick, Ashton, I mean, what do you think was the factor in that today?
Well, number one, my wife won't leave me alone. Number two, I don't know. I don't know exactly what to think about it. I know that week two will be different. I'm just going to chalk up to what some of the things we saw today as jitters. As far as what we'll see next week, I don't want to assume that it will be way better or overall as far as kids go, as far as coaching goes. I just think it'll be a different result and we'll look a little more polished.
I agree. But yeah, I mean, as far as week one of college football is concerned, of course, it's going to be a long season. Us at 4-Star Sports Media will be right here with you to ride the train all the way through to the national championship game. And there's going to be a lot of topics, a lot of change. I think it's going to be a lot of change happening in college football coming up very soon. And we're already seeing it with realignment as the American Coast Conference now has teams on the West Coast and in Texas. So I assume they're going to change that name. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. But week one, Colorado shocked the world. We talked about it tonight. Colorado shocked the world. Hogs run up the Catamounts. Tigers claw Bethune-Cookman, and much more tonight on closing time, which is just a way for us to close out the college football week or day that was. But tomorrow night, big one, LSU, Florida State, down in Orlando for Wes Pruitt.
Hey, I got one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Any early prediction for next week, Bama, Texas?
I think Texas wins. And that's a bold statement based on how they played today against Rice. First half, second half they looked really good. I did not see anything about Bama MTSU today. I'm sure it was not close. I did see where Nick Saban said that the way that they ran multiple formations really was going to give that team fits, but whatever. No, I think Texas wins the game. I think based on last year's game, I think Texas can step on the field and play with Alabama. What about you, Ashton?
From what I saw today, I don't know about the quarterback play of Alabama. I don't know if Milroe is the answer. for Alabama. But I'll tell you what is for real for Alabama every year, year in and year out, seems to be the defense. One way or another, it seems like they find a way to win games because their defense makes plays. So next week, Texas, Alabama. Alabama gets the win. I'm going to say it's probably going to be a lower scoring game than what people realize. It'll probably be like a 31-24, 31-21 type of game, but it's going to be a game. It's going to be close. I don't think Alabama runs away with it. I don't think Texas runs away with it. It's going to be probably a 10-point game either way.
Yeah, I can see it being a fourth quarter game, like being close going into the fourth, but I don't know. Bama is. I mean, I know they won tonight, but
what is Nick Saban's record against former coaches from his staff?
I think he's only lost one, and that was to Jimbo last
year. Yeah.
What about has he lost to Kirby?
No.
So he's had
Kirby beat him in the SEC. Saban beat him in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're talking one loss. Will Sarkisian make it two?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, but my question is this, and I'll pose this as we close the show. But if Sarkisian walks in and beats Saban in T-Town, does it hurt the aura and the what's the word I'm looking for? The aura and the prestige of the mighty Alabama?
No, I don't think so.
Because keep in mind, his two losses last year were on the road. Neither one of those were at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something. I'll give you an easy way to answer this. Alabama, if they go to Texas and they lose, the reason why I don't think it hurts the prestige of Alabama is because if Alabama comes home, if Alabama has a 2-loss season, I want you to think about this. If they lose to Alabama, if they lose to LSU or something like that, they still could have a potential opportunity to be in the SEC championship game. That's why I don't think it hurts the prestige. Right now, while Texas is a non-conference foe, I don't think it hurts. Conference is where it's going to matter because conference is where you're going to fight your way back into a national championship talk. So next week, I don't think it matters for Alabama as much as I think it matters for Texas.
Oh, I agree, and I mean, I can almost assure you that there was some quite not happy Texas fans going into halftime of that game today against Rice. But once again, man, great time talking football. That's what we like to do, guys. We like to talk and we love sports. So it's just a nice marriage, we just come on here and talk sports together. But for Blake Hogue, Ashton Wilson, and Wes Pruitt, thank you very much for watching and listening tonight. You have been watching and listening to the 4-Star Sports Media's closing time college football, where we close it all out. Big win tomorrow night, Florida State and LSU. Hogs roll, Tigers win. It's been a great day for all involved. Thanks, guys.
See you.